What's up? I am Mike, and in this video I will show you how I decided to paint the Xenomorph from the Ravensburger board game Alien. We'll be sharing the variation of the Xenomorphs and how we painted them in other videos, but this is how I did it to fit both the movie and the board game's aesthetic. Did you know that Xenomorphs have a kind of hierarchy? So do the subscribe thing, check the link in the description, or check for the card in the upper right if you want to check those videos out when they're out. To begin, I used a relic can to prime it black and used gray as a zenithal highlight from above. I didn't want to use white because I think that would just be too much of a contrast. I really want them to be really dark. Doing that alone gave it a really nice look. And you may want to stop here if you like the look you got and you just want something for just playing the game. Tiffany liked how it looked, but Xenomorphs aren't all that gray when they are fully formed. So I decided to continue onward and return it to a darker shade. Remember, at any time, if you like how the model looks during the process and it is good for you, stop. I often do more than necessary and more often than I would like. Most people don't notice it, but I do, and in the end, that's what matters to me. So first off, I started by mixing some of the darkest black paint I had, which was a mixture of Liquitex Basic Black and Reaper Solid Black. I used an 8:3 ratio of paint to water, but that may vary by the paints you use. I just wanted the paint mixture to recede back to the paint a bit when I would take them out, so I know that it is thinned enough to spread evenly. I started by coating from the base on upwards, painting everything, and I mean everything, black. Once it was fully coated, I went back to the base and painted it with Army Painter's Ash Gray. I thinned it down to more of a 3:1, 4:1 paint consistency to avoid paint getting in the grooves of the grates. The paint would stay where it was on my wet palette when I mixed it and loaded it onto my brush. That is the consistency I strive for. Try for that sort of consistency or you may end up going back and forth on it. If that does happen, no worries, because the next step is to do the oval spots on the rims of the base. I used the same color as the Xenomorph skin. I wanted the base and the Xenomorph to have the same black so they blend in, since Xenomorphs sort of camouflage with their environment or changes it to suit them for survival. Here, you may want to clean up any of the gray spots that may have seeped into the gaps in the last step. After that, I would dry brush the Xenomorph with Army Painter's Deep Gray. The Xenomorph is built pretty much like a skeleton. The exterior is like an insect, hard and rigid, so dry brushing will really accentuate the details. You have to be pretty gentle because the plastic on these miniatures are pretty flimsy. I always make sure to brush vertically for the most part to lighten up the tops of the ridges. I want the Xenomorph to look like it's stepping out of the darkness. Kind of like that poster or cover art from that movie with Rutger Hauer, I forget the name. I went back to Ash Gray to put on a second coat on the rim of the base and to clean up the black that inevitably seeped out of the edges of the oval areas, but you may want to skip doing this as we'll be coming back to it later. I noticed that the teeth were very hidden. So we need to make them stand out a bit. I mean, those things usually used it to finish off their prey if they weren't going to drag them back to their hives, right? So I took a bit of deep gray, the same as the dry brush color, and painted them in. If you want it to be a little bit darker, just put a little black into it. That way it's not too much of a stark contrast. I didn't think that the black was enough on the rim and the dark gaps between the grates, so I used the Armor Painter's Dark Tone Wash to fill in some of the pores. If you want it to have like a more of a dirty look, try a strong tone. That'll give it more of a brown kind of haze on it. Or if you're trying for like rusted grates, you could do that along with your rust color stuff on top of the grates. Then I went back to Ash Gray to clean up some of the places the wash shouldn't have gone, mainly the flat areas and other graded areas that I couldn't avoid to wash under the body. Finally, I did a glaze of deep gray on the Xenomorph's long dome. I did a 1:5 paint to water ratio as I wanted to control how dark I wanted it in the end. I did a few more, maybe 2 to 4 coats off camera to get what I wanted, but that will be a preference I'll leave up to you. I actually went back and did a slight 1:5 ratio glaze on the black again, just because I thought it was a little bit too much. I prefer subtle color changes that is mostly overlooked until you really take a good look at it. If you want a darker shade, do more glazes, or even change to a lighter gray color. All right, that is it. This is how it looks like before and after doing a satin varnish to protect the paint and give it that wet Xenomorph look. If you want a wetter look, use a gloss varnish. The camera doesn't do it justice, but there is definitely a nice sheen on some of the flat, smooth areas. Pancake butt. Don't forget to hit that bell notification so you can be notified when the next video drops, as it will be somewhat sporadic as it depends on a lot of factors. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you like the video to let YouTube know you'd like to see more of our videos. Our social media is in the description, and Tiffany posts more often on her Instagram of her finished painted miniatures. We will be doing more Aliens and Predator miniatures painting as we are hyped for Alien Earth. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or what board game miniatures or models you'd like to see. This is Mike of the Board Game Couple, and we'll see you next time we finish getting paint out stuff. Yeah, paint.